So, Persona 3 Reload is not good. I've narrowed it down to 5 things. We'll do 5. 1. What needed to be changed and what did not? Persona 3 isn't perfect. It definitely needed a remaster. Persona 4 and 5 aren't perfect either. My bladder's gonna explode! But they improved on a lot of the issues that people had with 3. 3 was the first Persona game to do the time management social simulator thing, and you can really tell. The social links are a bit weaker. Sometimes they're pretty underwritten or have less than adequate voice acting. There's not like a ton of stuff to do during the day, so a lot of the time you find yourself just grinding stats alone in your room. And the main thing, which I'd argue is really the only change they actually needed to make from Persona 3, you couldn't control your party members. The 2000s were a weird decade for a lot of reasons, Iraq for instance. But the weirdest thing was that game developers decided out of nowhere that everyone hated RPGs and you just weren't allowed to make an RPG that played like an RPG. Probably an argument somewhere that taking the control out of the player's hands adds complexity and strategy to the game and reinforces your role as simply the leader of your party, and no, it's actually the opposite. Bosses are pretty clearly designed around the fact that you can't actually control most of your party. Also, the cell phone, which was carried over from 5, is really convenient, and some of the texts are funny. Now, what did not need to be improved? 2, tone. Also, spoilers for everything in the entire game. Tone was always going to be a problem for Reload, and for 2 reasons. One is the Persona series itself, and the other is Atlas. 1A, Persona 3 is a pretty dark game. It's not come and see, but compared to the other Persona games, I gotta let it out before I piss my pants! It's pretty night and day. Just from a plot perspective, 3 is about finding a reason not to kill yourself, 4 is about being true to who you really are, and 5 is about how you should stand up to bullies. And outside of direct plot details, there's a pretty big change in how the principal characters interact. Another thing people criticize about 3, compared to the other games, is that the social element is a lot weaker. The main party don't really form a found family or anything. For most of the game, they are distantly friendly at best to actively planning to murder each other at worst. And some of their social links don't open up until much later in the game, and that can be kind of annoying if you were hoping to date them all. This is probably not going to surprise you, but I like that. I think it's a much more mature portrayal of this kind of situation, more Evangelion than Harry Potter, but Harry Potter is more popular than Evangelion, and Persona 5 sold 8 billion copies. 1B, Atlas. Atlas used to have small money. Now Atlas have big money. I think it would be naive to suggest that the tonal shifts to Persona that came with 4 and 5 are done accidentally. When your audience is everyone, you want your game to please everyone, and if people leave your game feeling good at the end of a lighthearted adventure about being true to yourself, it's more likely that they'll want to play the spin-off dancing game that you made, and the spin-off strategy game, and the remaster, and the casino. We'll talk about tone more, but the main takeaway is that Atlas wasn't just remaking Persona 3. Rather, they were taking Persona 3 and bringing it in line with the Persona games that have come since, to appeal to the Persona fans that have come since, or, weren't born in 2008. And that didn't mean just updating the graphics and tweaking the gameplay a bit. It meant bringing it in line with the way conceptions of modern games and modern Persona games have changed. With that said, 3. Difficulty. It's hard to talk about game difficulty on the internet. Pretty much immediately forms people into 2 camps. One side that worries that any kind of easy mode will dilute their achievement of beating a video game, and the other that think every game should include a mode that removes any semblance of actually playing it, just in case there is a hypothetical disabled person out there that needs it. Fortunately for me, the only people that are watching this video are my friends. Hey guys, so I can maybe find a balance to talk about just how infantilizing it felt to play Reload. Now, for those who play Persona 3 Portable, or for those who modded the original to have party control, you know that just adding party control at all makes 3 significantly easier. It seems like Atlas did try to balance around that this time around, and they did not. I was playing on hard and skipped a lot of the pointless bonus areas, and didn't do the gardening to get the full party healing items, and rarely used the 30-second cutscene attacks because they were pretty much unnecessary, and the game was still a breeze. But that's not even the real issue. Not every RPG has to be Fear and Hunger. What is an issue is handholding. There will be a tutorial for every single way you can press a button under any single circumstance you might want to. When you see a treasure chest, you are going to have to sit there for a second while the game explains to you the concept of walking up to it and pressing A. In this respect, more than anywhere else, Reload has modernized. Did you miss a social link in Persona 3? Trust me, it will not happen this time. Even if you tried to miss them, the game will make sure they at least get your phone number and DM you 3 times a week. Hey, want to come hang out? Got some pretty emotionally significant events on the horizon. And you also can't reverse social links anymore by making them mad at you or cheating on them. More on that later. And sure, maybe there's someone out there who's never played a video game before, or they decided that Persona 3 Reload should be their first video game after a traumatic brain injury. But I mean, it's not fun to be shepherded around by a game that thinks you're too stupid to play it on your own, is it? 4. The cutscenes. Reload's cutscenes are a mix between 2D animation and segments recorded in the game's engine. It's all very expensive, the animation is really clean and visually appealing. It's done by the guys who did the good seasons of Attack on Titan. Why is this a bad thing? All the graphical fidelity in the world means nothing if you don't do anything with it. Persona 3's cutscenes were all 2D. I can't find exact numbers, but it seems they were thrown together in a couple days and with a budget of about $15. Why is this a good thing? Those constraints force them to actually make the cutscenes interesting, to tell their story in a unique way. The main characters are rarely shown fully, they often find themselves in a stark white void, and there's a pretty heavy use of sound and close-ups as a way to bridge the gaps left in the animation. One thing you notice quickly in 3 is that the camera is active during cutscenes. Since action is difficult, and expensive to animate, they had to rely on quick editing and montage to get the idea across. All of this combines together into an industry term called style. Persona 3's style is surreal, angsty, and occasionally a bit grotesque. And Reload is really, really not. To the extent that you can say Reload has a style, it would be clarity or blue. Glass houses. Is it normal to do this? Has a game ever done this? If they remastered Zelda Twilight Princess and didn't change anything except cel shading it to make it look like Wind Waker, it wouldn't even really be the same game at that point, wouldn't? I should probably give examples, even though I really don't want to. We're going to talk about 3 cutscenes and compare them side to side, not just for how they look, but what they do. For A, the opening. Every Persona game has an animated opening, and 3's is the best. It would honestly be a waste of time for me to explain every reason why here. Just go watch it. It's a minute and 30 seconds long. Reload also has an opening. Doing great so far. And like a lot of Reload, it tries to capture the essence of 3 and doesn't. Even more so than the other cutscenes we'll talk about, though, the opening just struck me as extremely lazy. 3's opening really knocks it out of the park in evoking the spirit of the game. It starts with light acoustic guitar, bright blue colors, but slowly pulls more and more back to show the darkness lurking beneath it all. Characters are presented with memento mori and then with guns to their head before being blacked out one by one. The music grows faster, culminating in the tolling of midnight. The protagonist shoots himself in the head as his body disappears into yet another reminder that death is always waiting. Even completely ignoring just how striking all the visuals are, it's such a perfect encapsulation of 3's whole thing. The juxtaposition in the visuals alone tells you everything you need to know about the main philosophic conflict the characters are struggling with. I think when they were discussing how to make the opening for Reload, the guidance from Atlas was probably do that again, but also make it look like Persona 5. And the attempt is just so hollow. Okay, copy the instrumentals. That was easy. And make sure that we also do the switch up halfway. That was really cool. Don't worry about lead up or anything, just do it again, with more colors though. Make sure there's more colors. Add some more blue. The first cutscene just showed the characters in silhouette and made use of all these cool text effects. What a weird mistake that was. Make sure you show all the characters in full. Show them fully, and give them something to do. Mitsuru has a motorcycle, and Yukari wears makeup. The first opening had this sense of impending dread about the characters being forced to use their personas, probably because they're shooting themselves in the head, but that's not very fun, so make sure you show them using their personas and make sure they're smiling and you get to see their personas flying around like whoosh. Show the dog looking sad. That dog has lost someone. And I bet you're thinking, so what? Of course the opening to the remaster is going to reference the original. What is the issue here? The issue is that it doesn't reference the original. It mimics it, and poorly. The one token reference it makes to the original is a 1-second shot of a random girl jumping off a building and transforming into a coffin. Whoa, good thing it started with a warning screen. For B, the intro. This is the first cutscene you see when you start playing, and if you looked at 3's and Reload side by side, you could be forgiven for thinking that Reload just copied 3 exactly. Mostly, it did. It's almost an exact copy of Persona 3's opening. In both of them, we start off with a shot of the moon. In 3's opening, the moon, which, by the way, is holding the avatar of mankind's longing for death, melds into a single pixel of an advertising board, pumping lifeless images out to the people around it. Probably nothing there. In Reload, they just did the shot of the moon, and then cut to something completely different. Great. Focus! We are introduced to our main character, Makoto. He's on his way to his new dorm, while somewhere, a mysterious girl puts a gun to her head, but is unable to pull the trigger. When Makoto is on the train, things go all green, and he enters his dorm during the dark hour. At his dorm, a mysterious child has him sign a contract before Yukari, mistaking Makoto for a shadow, nearly attacks him before being stopped by their upperclassman, Mitsuru. Okay, so the two cutscenes are almost entirely identical. How did Reload manage to fuck it up? Because, okay, high level film knowledge here, the things you do with the camera actually matter, and a good director will structure his cutscenes to add things, not only to make it more interesting, but to add tension, juxtaposition, and subtext. 3's opening structures itself a lot around sound. We get this otherworldly rumbling that fades into the white noise of people going about their day, which then clashes with Makoto, who, again, is tuning it all out. This further sets up a crosscut between Makoto and Yukari trying to use her evoker, which builds tension as the sound grows louder and the cuts between the two of them come faster and faster. You are primed to think, who is this girl? Why is she putting a gun to her head? Do these two know each other? It's framed to strike the imagination, to get you asking questions, and yes, to make you think that this girl is about to kill herself. Despite the convenient warning screen at the start of the game, Reload, I guess, just didn't feel comfortable with 1 second of ambiguity in their game about suicide, with having you think that a character might commit suicide, because it is just not framed that way in Reload. So yeah, Reload doesn't do any of that. The sound is very quiet, not particularly chaotic or off-putting. You'll remember that 3 uses sound and framing as a way to establish Makoto as a sort of otherworldly outsider, almost an ethereal presence. In Reload, they knew they weren't going to do any of that, so you randomly get this shot of him looking really intensely at the camera, like there's a deep darkness lurking within him, and it's so obvious that that's what they were doing, because in Reload, Makoto just does not look like that. Like, even in the next shot, he looks completely different. And you'll remember that sound is how they set up that really cool crosscut between Makoto and Yukari. So yeah, we don't get that either. Instead, they just jump cut. Yukari is standing, fully illuminated, in case you couldn't tell that she's a main character. You can see the design on the gun. The sync isn't going to make it sound like she's hiding. There's no tension because they do the entire scene in one go. No connection made with Makoto because they don't cut between the two of them. Oh, and the voice acting's bad.
There's no way, I can't!
Well, that was the first half, doing great so far. I'm not going to compare the second halves as much, mostly because Reload just didn't feel like animating that part. And I will criticize them for that. I mean, nobody made them do it, but mostly I'll just point out how insanely uninteresting Reload looks compared to the game it's supposedly remastering. 4C. Persona! Okay, this has gone on for a while. Just tell me which of these two looks better.
Those monsters. We call them shadows. That's it! One of the monsters that attacked us!
Number 5. The neckbeard trap. So the Persona series has never been amazing about women.
Master!
I won't act like 3 was doing much to topple the patriarchy, but Reload is worse. When I first wrote this script, the title of the video was Persona 3 Reload thinks you're very, very stupid, parentheses, and also hates women. I actually can't remember all of the reasons I had for saying that, and I don't want to play Reload again, but I do remember this one. Before we get into the neckbeard trap itself, let's talk a little bit about Yukari. As a character, she's pretty nuanced. She changes a lot over the course of the game, and she has a very rich inner world that you only get glimpses of, which I won't say she stands out against some of Atlas's other attempts to write women. But in 3, Yukari seems almost aware of the fact that she's the canon love interest. She's very conscious of the fact that just by being seen with a man, the people in her life, especially Junpei, will see her as someone's girlfriend rather than her own person. That struggle is reflected in the myth of her persona, Io, which is the story of a woman so beautiful that Zeus decided to ruin her life. Because of this, you are only able to start Yukari's social link about halfway through the game. After, Mitsuru reveals to the entire party that Yukari's dad was actually head researcher on the Kill Everyone project, and he died in an explosion, which they got on video. So after that, Yukari runs out to the beach, understandably in a bit of an emotional spiral, and Makoto follows her out there. After having heart-to-heart about her feelings toward her father and how she feels lost and alone, Makoto tries to talk her through it, only for her to lash out at him. You find out later from Yukari's conversations with her mom that she's not entirely used to people caring about how she feels. When you say no, you were there because you wanted to be, she is clearly taken aback, but still doesn't even really believe you unless you make the choice to hug her. And it is that hug that actually opens up the social link, opens up Yukari to the idea that Makoto might be someone she wants to be closer to. Okay, so what is the neckbeard trap? I mentioned that in 3 you could reverse social links, making the person so mad at you that you need to take them out and apologize before you can continue talking to them. This can be done by saying something really insensitive at certain points in their social links, but mostly it just happens if you cheat on them. As you go through Yukari's social link, a lot of it is dedicated to learning more about her relationship with her mother. When she finds out that her mom is planning to remarry, she complains that she's running away from life by going from man to man after the death of her husband, and that she would never be that weak. That, too, is another window into Yukari's personality. We see that her strong sense of independence isn't just a coping mechanism, it's how she defines herself in opposition to her mother. It's how she faces life after the death of her father. In the 5th level of her social link, right before she and Makoto would start dating, Yukari loses her wallet and goes to look for it. She says she'll be right back and to wait there. When she doesn't return after a while, Makoto goes to look for her, only to find that she's being accosted by 3 thugs. Makoto charges in and beats up all 3 of them. Yukari is appreciative, but once again she lashes out, asking why you didn't listen to her when she told you to wait. She's offended at the assumption that she needed your help, asking, do you think it's funny? We've seen this before, right? Friendship and genuine care upsets Yukari because she sees it as counter to her independence. She's worried that you helped her not because you wanted to, but because you thought she couldn't handle it on her own. And the neckbeard trap is here. Do you see it? What would you choose here? If you chose hug, well, sometimes a wolf gets caught in a bear trap, but they were set up for bears. Before Makoto can even put her arms around her, she recoils, furious. Because you've just confirmed it. You do think it's a joke. All this time, all this opening up, just as Yukari is starting to think that Makoto might be someone she can really trust, he reveals that he either hasn't been listening to her at all, or thinks that when a woman is upset, you just input one hug and everything is better. It's a genius moment. From a gameplay perspective, it's a test of how much you're paying attention to the social link and considering your answers. But also, I don't think it's a coincidence that this moment comes from Yukari, whose story is so wrapped up in meta commentary about her existence as the canon love interest in a game that's half dating simulator. Even if you don't pick it, just knowing it's there is another nuance into Yukari's character. Okay, this has gone on for a while. What did Reload do? So after you beat up those guys, Yukari doesn't really snap at you or anything. She just kind of asks why you came in the first place. And there isn't the option to hug her. Instead, you can just say something really sexist to her for no reason at all. So like, instead of being a test of whether or not you're well-meaning while still not really considering her feelings, if you're patronizing her because she's a woman you want to date, it's a test of if you'll say something really mean out of nowhere to a close friend. And yeah, she gets pretty mad if you do that. Why would you? One last thing, I wasn't sure where to put this, but I can't let the video go without bringing it up. In Reload, Makoto is a good few inches taller than the female characters, while in 3, he's clearly the same height as Yukari. Interesting! 5. Conclusion. Again, for a remake that follows its original so closely, it is both amazing and baffling just how much of the charm of 3 Reload leaves behind, and how much of that was done purposefully. Obviously, a remaster shouldn't be an exact copy of the original, but I'm not sure I can think of a worse thing for a remaster to do than to almost copy its original one-to-one, but take out all the style, themes, motifs, nuance, and then charge $70 for it. If you are completely unwilling to play a kind of unintuitive RPG from 2 decades ago, but you are dead set on experiencing something that is, I guess, close enough to the experience of Persona 3, then go ahead, have fun. I can't stop you, I live in the computer. Maybe just watch a cutscene movie or something, they are way better.